go there, Nighthawk? Hey, Nighthawk, where did you go there, Break?
Just barely hear you in there. All right, I'm moving back to 28. This one's a little bit noisy. Grandpa, I'm moving back to 28.
All right, I'll go up to 28 there. You probably won't hear me, but I'll go to 28 too there, Break.
Motormouth's going to 28 too there, Break.
Stand by here on 28. All right, Grandpa. I don't know if you followed me over here, and Motormouth, same thing. But yeah, it was a bit noisy out there on 6.
Roger that. Motormouth should be over here.
Yeah, I'm here. You say it was noisy on 6. I hope you can still hear me on this one. Maybe a little bit better. Less competition there, Break.
Oh, copy that. Yeah, a whole lot better than 6. Sound real good now.
Roger there, Pat. Well, good to hear you, man. It's been a long time, and man, I tell you, I spent some time doing some rewiring over here on the studio, and I ended up with a few, after the course of like the last 6 years, 7 years, whatever it's been now. I've added and removed and rewired, pulled new wires, and added connectors and kind of hodgepodge connected stuff, and it finally bit me in the butt, and I had some ground loops and buzzes and hums, and I couldn't get rid of them, and the RF was getting a little wild in the shack, and really wasn't that much, but it was enough to cause grief. So anyhow, I turned everything off the day before yesterday, and I didn't even unplug anything. I got the diagonals out, and I clipped all the wires off of everything in this room and in the other room, and pulled all the wires out, stuck them in a pile, and started from the beginning and rewired everything and changed everything all up and made it all work. And anyway, now things are back the way they're supposed to be in a perfect world, and I'm a happy camper to bring.
I'll copy that. Good deal. All right. Well, yeah. Really enjoyed that video BBI put out, and with you and BBI. Really nice. And so good to see you guys together and putting out a lot for the radio community. It was awesome.
Roger, yeah, glad you enjoyed that. I hope to do a few other videos. I want to do some instructional videos. I haven't really been big on doing a lot of that. I've been showing some demonstration videos way back when I had stuff set up before, and I think I put out the last demonstration video while I was still in the hangar over there. So I think I might do something else. I've had requests for several different things, everything from some audio processing setups and what to listen for and how to monitor and what to adjust and what affects what, and how it applies to our relatively narrow banded receivers, how important audio and tonal balance is and all that kind of thing. Videos on, gain staging amplifiers and proper driving and PEP versus RMS versus, asymmetry versus 100% versus the other direction and all that kind of stuff. I even had people say I should do videos about coax lengths, jumper lengths, and how velocity factor affects that, and why the 18-foot myth is just that, a myth, because that's a free space measurement and not taking in consideration, of course, coax measurements and all that. So there's a few good videos I can do, I think, that might help out the community as well. And I'd like to do that. And eventually I will, ain't no doubt about that. Hello to you, Nighthawk, Motormouth Mall. You and your good sounding self, Motormouth Mall waving, and Grandpa Jones. Well, you both are out there in modulators and sounding super good. Beautiful audio on both stations. Roger
that, Motormouth. Appreciate it. I'm glad you guys got a good connection. I'm glad you got a good connection. Go ahead.
Well, Nighthawk, what's my signal strength over there at your place? And Grandpa Jones, you tell me what it is at your place. I'm just curious.
particular? Right now, I'm using the kind of the generic session file for Live Professor that you produced, yeah, way back when. But it would be nice to know each individual plugin, what it really does. You know, I know you've advanced your plugins over the years, but in my case, you know, on the internet you find nothing. I mean, there's a few little things on Clipstar, maybe a little bit on Blackwater Reverb, but it really doesn't tell you, you know, how to use it. And so for me, it would be awesome to know what each individual plugin does and what to listen for and how to set it up properly. So for me, when you said something about making some videos, I thought, wow, because for the layman, there's nothing out there. You know, there's a bunch of people out there that have, you know, analog devices, but nothing digital, especially for voice. Most of it's for music.
You know, I find that to be the case. You look online to try to optimize processing one way or the other, and if you specify spoken word even, you still don't get really the same results. You get the search engine comes up with all kinds of things on how to mix, you know, and there's a big difference in processing audio in a mix and making a particular part of the mix stand out and not having overlapping things and how you EQ individual things to make the whole complete thing sound like it's supposed to sound. And I don't do that. That's not my forte at all, by the way. That's something, you know, the guys, the studio engineers that do all that stuff, there's a certain, well, you have to, I guess, practice it and do it and understand what components are doing what and what to listen for. Like you said, you need to have that idea. What am I expecting to hear when I make this a change? Because sometimes the changes are very subtle. They don't jump out and attack your ears and say, here, you just did this. They can be very minute and very subtle changes. And additively, they combine to create a particular effect or sound. In music, of course, you know, you're looking, let's say you've got a drum beat, you know, and thumping, and you got a bass line, and you got that, and then you got the guitar and a vocal, and you don't want to muddy it. You can't just record this, record that, and mix them together, equal volume, and have the thing, and then say, okay, I want more or less of this one or that one. The effect of the attack and the release times and the equalization of one versus the other makes the individual instruments either blend or pop, depending on where you want them. And then you've got all the nuances of dynamic range and all that overall dynamic range. And it just gets really complicated, far more complicated than it needs to be for what we're doing. So yeah, video explaining, you know, maybe the equalizers and your different flavors of equalizers. And primarily, you know, you have your basic, you know, graphic EQ, and then you've got like a parametric EQ. And then those equalizers, of course, have the ability to have shelving or high pass or low pass or variable Q, variable frequencies, variable gain or cut. And what are you using the EQ for when you're using the EQ? You know, you can have a pre-EQ and a post-EQ and a final EQ. And you know, what doesn't really common sense and what doesn't make any sense is if you have a multi-band compressor, or let's just say you have a single compressor with an EQ before it. Well, the more you EQ something up, the more you boost, say, a mid-range frequency, the more that compressor is going to see that mid-range frequency. And it's going to say, oh, I'm going to compress harder. So then you end up with less output of the compressor at that frequency than you had before. And sometimes, depending on the bandwidth of the compressor, you may have less overall output because of the boost at that one frequency. So what you thought you were trying to do for a positive effect actually gave you a negative effect. And so you don't want to overdo all that. You want to keep the dynamic range. You want to keep the breadth, the opening, the fullness in there. So you got to pick frequency specific, and then, you know, carefully maybe use a pre-EQ to just get some problem frequencies that are the voice out of there. Let's say you got a nasally, something that's just kind of horrible sounding, and it's a dominant frequency. And the more you compress and the more you add everything, the more that dominant frequency is going to be a problem. So you get rid of some of the problematic stuff. Or let's say you don't have enough highs in your audio. You can boost those highs and get that starting curve somewhere. But then you use compression primarily because you want to be able to get your mouth either really close to the mic, somewhere reasonably close, or maybe a little farther away, and have a lesser of a, you may change room acoustics, you may change dynamics, you might change proximity effect sounds, but your level will remain relatively constant, whether you're farther or closer to the microphone. So a little bit of compression to get that to occur without having a real loud or real quiet kind of effect is all the compression you really want at that stage. But then after you've compressed, you've got a different EQ balance. So you might want to post EQ to kind of tinker with that a little bit. And once you get your post EQ done, then you're going to want to maybe look at multi-band limiting. So you can take a look at the problem frequencies that are still creating overshoots, and you'll find that there are certain frequencies, you might have to get into phasing and all that stuff, but you'll find that there are some frequencies that will drive the transmitter to overmodulation quicker than other frequencies. So you might want to get in there and maybe take out some of that problematic area. And then you might want to add a reverb, an effect, a reverb of some sort, a plate or a hall or something, just a little bit of a reverb. But that's subjective. But if my taste on it is, or my take on it is a little bit, once you hear it in there, you've probably got enough. If you get too much to where it seems overbearing, it's probably really overbearing. So reverb is the next step. You don't want to do that early in the stage, because the more you compress again, the more that reverb will get compressed, and you may have to, it's not wrong to do it, but you have to then have less of it. And there may be a point where even as less as you can get isn't less enough because the compression, especially multi-band, and will bring that up. So you get your effect, and then maybe you've got after that, another EQ for taste or whatever, and then maybe a brick wall limiter. Well, hopefully a brick wall limiter or a multi-band brick wall limiter, something that will make sure that no matter what you do, whether you're yelling into the mic or whatever, it keeps that level from getting to the point where it's going to overmodulate the transmitter. And then you're sitting right at, 100% negative peaks. And then, of course, you've got the asymmetry that comes in from the modulator, which you can then bump up a little bit. But you only do that once you've got your program density where you want it. And once you got your carrier and audio relationship right to where you're not pinching off the negative peaks, and you've got all that you can have in there, then you can roll in 125, 150, 185%, whatever it is, positive peaks. And that's the scheme. Now, the tricky part, this is probably one long-ass key, isn't it? Anyway, the tricky part is, we're on 28, okay. Anyway, the tricky part is how you monitor your audio. And so now, once you know kind of what you're listening for and how the compressors work and all that, you've got everything working right. Well, now you've got to figure out your tonal balance and the energy under the curve within the bandwidth that you're interested in. Whether you're going for somebody on a 6 kilohertz wide receiver, a 20 kilohertz wide receiver, or a 3 kilohertz wide receiver, if you optimize it for any one of those, it won't sound perfect on all of them. So you kind of got to lower your sights a little bit and make it sound good on all of them, but then still know that you're going to be a far cry above the rest of them, if that makes any sense. So anyway, how you monitor, so various different receivers, good quality headphones, making sure you've got your ears covered and all that kind of stuff. Man, I guess I just made the YouTube video of audio processing. Hey, no demos. I'm not going to get involved in here, point in this, click on this, turn that. Here's what it does. Primarily for two reasons. One, I think a description of what I just gave is enough to get that idea across, and the bandwidth and how you monitor is enough to point somebody in the right direction. The other thing is, when you show a rack of equipment and you say, well, this is what it sounds like with the reverb, this is what it sounds like without the reverb. Well, when you've done that, reverbs, not all are equal, and some of them actually have a tonal effect as well as they have gain staging effects that are in the chain. And if you change that, you simply bypass it and you don't correct for it tonally or level adjustment wise. You've got a lot more going on than just removing the reverb. So what you hear as an end result, people say, oh, that's what happens when you lose the reverb. No, that's what happens when you lose that reverb in that chain, right? Does that make sense? So the EQ, the same thing, gosh, where it is and what happens and all that is very subjective, and so I'm not going to get involved in any of that at any discussion point, only because I don't think that is necessarily important in the message being conveyed. I think what's important is for people to know kind of sort of what's the goal and how to monitor it, and then use your ears and your best judgment to come up with the final effect. But yeah, I hope that might have been the video. This might have been the video on YouTube pertaining to audio processing. Nighthawk, Motor Mouth Mall, get down.
Hey, Mall, your video ain't gonna...
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, did you get all that, Grandpa? Get all those in your notes? All that tutorial? You should be able to set yours up really good right now. Yeah, John. Yeah, that would be awesome. You know, you got to have audio processing for dummies. You're at a whole different level than most of us. At least my level. I have no clue. You know, I play around right now. I've been using your generic session file, if you will, for my professor for what? How many years? Haven't changed any settings at all. Today, I'm talking to you. All I did was play around with Blackwater Reverb. I added a little room size, and I made it a little more wet. Other than that, it's the same, and I don't save that file. I just play with it. Everybody says it sounds great. Everybody says the original one sounds great. So I just, I really don't play with anything because I have no clue what I'm doing. So rather than, if it's close, I don't care. Everybody says it sounds great, and that's all I care. But yeah, for people that have no idea what to do, I guess you'd have to pick a set of plugins and go through each plugin and what you're trying to do with that plugin, and at the end result what you accomplish. There's a lot of videos out there, but none of them really address each individual plugin and how to set it up and get the end result. So like I said, you're at a whole different level than I am, and probably a lot of people out here.
Roger. Oh, what a trip. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose there are people that don't know what EQs do or what compressors do, and I guess it would be good to kind of, when I say the compressor, you put an EQ before a compressor and bump up a frequency and the compressor acts, and people say, well, what do you mean it acts? What does that mean? I guess I got to quantify all that. So I guess I will at some point. But basically, you're and compressors and limiters. They say, oh my gosh, did more equipment. Well, a compressor is basically just a faster acting and higher threshold, or higher ratio a compressor. A limiter is a higher rate threshold compressor. So how it acts but what its job is and how it acts is totally different. So I suppose a video on how each individual plugin works and what to expect would be good. But this may be some to give some people a starting point. Anyway, as far as how you sound, my God, I like that. It's a good, clean session, and this is what I heard. Check this out. Motor Mouth Mall, get down.
Hey, Mall.
I hope I got this right.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, did you get all that, Grandpa? Get all those in your notes? All that tutorial? You should be able to set yours up really good right now. Yeah, John. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Let me advance that to where that guy's not keying up.
He says it sounds great. Everybody says the original one sounds great. So I just, I really don't play with anything because I have no clue what I'm doing. So rather than, if it's close, I don't care. Everybody says it sounds great, and that's all I care. But yeah, for people that have no idea what to do, I guess you'd have to pick a set of plugins and go through each plugin and what you're trying to do with that plugin.
There you go. Anyway, I'm not going to play the whole thing.
At the end result,
But I want you to hear it. I think it sounds good, crisp, clean, clear, beautiful. I like the room, the added reverb. I haven't used Blackwater Reverb in a long time. I've gravitated toward one that I like that's called Oral River. It's a freebie off of VSTforfree.com. It's called Oral River, and very powerful plugin, very awesome plugin, and also Clipstar. I have not used Clipstar in forever. Mainly because I found Clipstar had a little bug occasionally with my system. Sometimes it wouldn't load up in the session files. Yours, I mean, fortunately, it's been working all the time. I've had Clipstar fail on me a few times, so I gave up on it because I wanted a little bit more consistency. But yeah, Clipstar was a cool plugin. I like it. But yeah, it just wasn't consistent enough. But yeah, and then I used Equilibra. Equilibra is awesome. It's a great parametric EQ. Gives you a lot of control. But anyway, yeah, you sound great there, Nighthawk Motormouth Malm.
Yeah, I copied that. Yeah, there's another station in there that's jumping in on top of you, so I didn't hear most of that. But yeah, I'm running the free version still, so I'm running the 32-bit, not the 64-bit. But like I said, I haven't changed anything in all the years that I've had this, except for tonight. I played around with Blackwater Reverb. That's all I've done. Everything else is set the exact same way. So you say it sounds pretty decent. So anyways, just played with it. It's not something permanent, which is kind of cool. You just close it down and don't save any of the settings, and it goes back to the original. But I've heard nothing but good reports on, just the original version of this. That's why I've never changed anything.
Roger. By the way, the 32-bit is perfect. There's no real audible gain per se to be had with the 64 over the 32. And the real cool thing about the 32 is that there are more plugins available from VSTforfree.com that are free. The 32-bit, there are less plugins at 64, and so no degradation, no problem at all with the 32-bit. So yeah, that works great, and love it, man. That station sounds 10.8. It would be fun to play with you someday with some audio there. You make some changes a little bit here and there, and kind of sort of attack a particular area. And I don't mean a particular area like there's a problem. But I mean, it's just like, I think we could probably squeeze a little bit more bottom end, a little bit more bass up in there without getting it too weird. But then again, you're catering to specific people that may not want as much bottom end. So I don't know that you necessarily. You certainly don't need to make any changes, but I think we could get a little deep, like a certain type of bottom end that grunt up in there instead of more of the like, for example, my audio right now is rolling off at 50 hertz at the bass, and I can come up in here. This won't change on YouTube any. I don't think this will change on YouTube, but over the air. Now I got rid of the audio depth, and I got it rolled off at about at 100 hertz. And I did that before, mainly because I had a problem in the studio here, and I couldn't bump the bottom end up without having a in the background. I got rid of that buzz. And anyway, now I can go down here to 50 hertz. And give you a little bit more bottom end. And hopefully that still sounds okay on your end. But that's what I would like to try to do on yours, is try to get a little bit more of that bottom end depth.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell, John, right now, because a lot of skip in here. It's really tough to pull you out. Probably another time might be better. But hey, I'll get with you down the road. But yeah, like I said, I haven't really done anything with this, so. Yeah, everybody else seems to say it sounds great. I'm one of these people, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I just thought I'd play with just one plug-in just to see what people would say. Everybody says sounds good, so I really haven't changed a whole lot. So I'm going to take a standby real quick. I'll let you talk to Grandpa if he's still out there, but I'm going to run to the little boy's room. I'll be back in a bit, and got a dinner call getting ready to show up, so I will definitely look forward to talking to you in the future.
All right there, Nighthawk. Sounds good. And we'll look forward to hearing you later on. And good to hear you. Good to talk to you. And I wish I could make a better trip, but I had to keep the power down. And I'm on this crazy antenna that's 23 feet off the ground. And It's got 4 nulls, one of which is pointed directly toward you. So sorry about that. I apologize. And maybe I'll get up into your radio a little bit better another time. But for now, this is all I've got. So we'll catch you a little bit later. Grandpa Jones, good evening time. And by the way, what's the ETA or what's the status with Jelly Belly's modulator, the break? I'm dying to hear him back on it.
Oh, Motormouth, I haven't heard JB out here for a while. I have no idea. Happened to Jelly Belly, Motormouth.
10-4. Yeah, I don't know. I was just curious. I know he's been busy, I guess, but yeah, he's been 10-7 for a while. Anyway, or not 10-7, but on a different radio. Not the big sounding radio. I think something happened to the computer. Anyway, all right, let me get my knees up in the breeze. Grandpa Jones, motor mouth, mall waving, and yeah, you'd think my doggone transmitter would be warm by now, but it's not. All right. I hear, I don't know if that's northwest corner or east coast or what's rolling up in there, Grandpa.
I hear them trying to get in there over the top of you so far. They haven't quite got there, but they're working on it. And I heard that playback that you did of Nighthawk. It sounded just like he was in person on the air. That was a perfect playback, Motormouth.
Roger. As I think you sound. You sound perfect. You sound like you do over the in real life. Over the face to face. You definitely got that clarity and everything that you would expect to hear from being in the same room with somebody. And this is what I heard here. Check it out.
I hear them trying to get in there over the top of you so far. They haven't quite got there, but they're working on it. And I heard that playback that you did of Nighthawk. It sounded just like he was in person.
You can hear they're trying to get up over you too. So I apologize, but that's just the way it goes. It's the nature of the beast. Motormouth Mall waving right there, right now, Grandpa.
Roger, Motormouth. Well, I'll take a sit back because I think they hear you and they want to get back into your radio. So if you can hear that, we can go ahead. I'll be back out. Thank you, Motormouth.
10-4. I'll listen for a little bit, and I'll probably go 10-7 shortly. It's already 6:35. And I may go in before long. Anyway, Motormouth Mall cruising these 25 well-trained, well-fed birds. Got down.
Motormouth Mall. I hear buzzing in the back.
Buzzing in the back. No buzzing over here.
Yeah, a little less traffic.
Okay, and I heard somebody way out there calling Motormouth Mall. I don't know who that was.
He was on a little mobile local calling you, Motormouth.
Local? Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, who's that local calling Motormouth Mall every day?
Local mobile. Mr. Wizard.
Oh, Wizard. Hey, sorry, Chad, I got this antenna pointed the wrong direction. And I'm going to have to turn off one of the antennas. Maybe I got the big one pointed the wrong way. Maybe I can do better on the smaller antenna. Mr. Wizard, what's going on there, Chad?
I should probably just walk over to the side and talk to you.
It's just weak. It's not moving fast. It's just weak.
And hopefully Nighthawk was recording the whole YouTube podcast episode of how to tweak your audio. But good stuff there, man. Anyways, good to hear you out there.
Roger there, Chad. Yeah, if he didn't record it, it's on YouTube. If he didn't record it, it's live. And I got about 29 minutes at this point. I guess I went on for a while. And my God, I didn't realize I was going to do that. But yeah, I didn't touch on individual parts and what they should do per se, but I did kind of touch on the overall scheme of how I go about, what I listen for and what to adjust and kind of sort of the goal. But anyway, yeah, very cool. It is on YouTube, and it's it's today's latest gate as of now so far. I didn't label it though. I suppose I should probably. I never take the time to label these anymore. It takes too much time, and then you don't know who's going to be on the gate if it's a long gate, So I just give it the date and then I'll give it A, B, C, or D, and whatever, whether it's the first, second, third, fourth, whatever the gate that is that I made. So if somebody knows they were on early in the morning or earlier, they might listen to the first gate. If they know they were on late, they might listen to the last gate. And some people may have to suffer through several gates to find them. Anyway, I could share this with Facebook, though, and then put, hey, Motormouth Mall yapping about audio processing or something like that. But it wasn't really my intention to make that a more in-depth kind of thing. It was supposed to be just a quick response to a key, but long-windedness took over there, Brady.
Yeah, there was this guy. You give him a better exchange on how to set up your signal chain. A little dog. Compressing what you just boosted with your EQ or something like that. But you call to the spot over there, and it was making a lot of racket. Up the inside of my Jeep here. Had some bad switches and took the dash apart. Got it all back together and everything. You got 33 out here. The little Jeep radio still gets out, so it's up to 33 and wow, the driveway with the wizard.
Roger, yeah, sounds good. It's working. Glad to hear you got that all dialed in. I had all kinds of wiring issues over here, man. I tell you what, it was a mess and a half. And the answer to the YouTube, yeah, I did. I got the switch all dialed in. I got the relay installed, so now I just have one button I got to push. And mix minus working for the YouTube feed. Yeah, I got the whole console rewired, and finally labeled all the punch blocks. And yeah, what a nightmare that was. I heard buzzes and hums, and I clipped it apart. I turned everything off, and I didn't even bother unplugging anything. I just got the wire cutters, and I cut every wire except for the power cables. And I pulled all the equipment out. I went in the other room where all the wires came through the wall, and I cut all of them, pulled all the punch blocks off, all the wires off the punch blocks, relabeled all the punch blocks, and then restarted from the very beginning and wired everything all back up again. No more buzzes, no more hums. YouTube audio feed is working. My playback and record is working. Levels are good. Yeah, it's like a whole different station. I love it. So yeah, sometimes, when things get weird, and then in my hassle of trying to figure out what was all, when I putting it all back together again, I found out that the 1/8" stereo to dual RCA cable from my record input on my computer was all whacked out. The doggone the 1/8" side, the ground or the shield was not connected to the internal in the cable. It was broken, and the cable had been twisted or whatever. And then I figured, well, I'll cut that half off and throw it away, get rid of the 1/8" connector. And then I later on needed some RCA connectors. So I thought, well, I'll just measure it and tone it out, make sure those are good. And turns out one of them, the center wasn't connected. So that one wire could have been the cause of all of my grief. But anyway, so I threw it away and used another cable and then continued rewiring. And when I turned everything on and tested it, lo and behold, it all worked. So it was a pleasant result, a day and a half of work and grief, but got it all wired. It's all done there, Brady.
Yeah, Motormouth's talking to somebody out here. Nighthawk.
Nighthawk can't hear Wizard?
Because there's somebody, Mr. Wizard, out here.
My hand off the microphone.
All right, Nighthawk, you sounded good.
Wow, I can't hear Nighthawk now. Is he still keying up?
Yeah, he's in his mobile. Hey, Motormouth, Nighthawk's mobile, Everett.
Oh, no wonder. Okay.
Well, I'll get out of the way, guys. On 10-7, Mr. Wizard, just read the mail.
All right there, Mr. Wizard. We'll catch you later on. Have a good evening. Good to hear you up in here, as always. And have a great remainder of the, well, I guess your weekend is probably already here. So enjoy the weekend. Mr. Wizard, Motormouth Mall stepping. All right, then, Grandpa, I'm going to go in the house for a bit, grab something yummy for my tummy, and go visit with Jackie a little bit and see what's cooking. And good to hear you up in there as well. Grandpa Jones, Motormouth Mall, got down.
Roger, Motormouth. And I heard Nighthawk come back and ask me if I needed anything from the store. No, I don't, Pat. Thanks anyway. Hey, Nighthawk, I heard you in there, but I just checked out. Nighthawk, Grandpa, I heard you in the mobile every, but I don't need anything from the store every.
Oh, copy that. All right. So hopefully I didn't.
I know. Day after day after day, the same old thing. Right?
Roger that educational stuff on YouTube. Yeah, he couldn't hear you. He asked me who you talking to. I said Nighthawk. He said he couldn't hear you, but that's just the way it goes. All right, Nighthawk, I got it. I wrote everything down he said and everything down you said.
Yeah.
My hands are a little sore right now, so all that writing's taking it out of me there, Brick.
The guy that did that, man, he used to break me up, man. He sounds so sincere.
A transcriber or a shorthand or whatever. Man, he was just doing 100 miles an hour and it was like flying right over the top of my head.
Everything he says goes over my head, Nighthawk. Hey, I heard that playback that he gave you. It sounded just like you were local, just like you were talking to me, as you are now. Just loud and clear and plain and crisp, just like you were talking to me on his playback there, Rick.
Well, I'll have to go look at it. He probably put it up on YouTube, so I'll have to go listen to it. Yeah, listen to what I sound like. So yeah, I'll definitely go and check that out later.
And hey, Grandpa Jones, tell Nighthawk I can hear him now. He's at the end of this YouTube gate right here. Hey, Nighthawk, I can hear you now.
Clean and clear, nice, good and loud. Of course, you're close, but still in all, it's a mighty, mighty fine.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm listening.
Hey, Grandpa.
Maybe, and then you get a Star Wars movie.
Then looked in the fridge and we had no guacamole. So I said, okay, I'll run to the store and bring some.
Hey, Grandpa.
Guacamole. No, you can't have fajitas without guacamole, that's for sure. It's a terrible thing when you run out of guacamole every.
Hey, Grandpa Jones, tell Nighthawk I can hear him now, and he's at the very end of the YouTube gate in the mobile, so he can compare his mobile and the base to break.
Because Albertson, most of the time you can't even find a place to park down there.
Break. I know I'm in the mud. Hey, Grandpa Jones, motor mouth mall waving. Well, hang on a second.
Yeah, Lakeview. So I'm going to be parking here shortly. And
Yeah, no, I was going to say, you know,
Okay, Pat, it's good to hear you. Catch you on the way back.
it's really wild.
Hey, Grandpa Jones, I was going to say, tell Pat that I could hear him now, and I got him on the very last part of this YouTube gate. So when he listens to the gate, make sure he listens to the very end. He can hear himself on the base versus his mobile. They're break.
All right, hey, Motormouth said you can hear yourself on the YouTube now, Pat. You got the last part you got there at his gate. That's from Motormouth, Pat. Break.
all right, sounds good. We'll have to wait till I get home. All right, we'll do. I'll check it out.
Roger, he'll check it out when he gets home, Motormouth.
All right, sounds good there, Grandpa. Appreciate that. And I'm going to shut this thing off and let it do its upload so when he gets home, he can give it a listen. All right, catch you later on, Grandpa Jones. Motormouth Mall got the sound.
Got the sound. All right, Motormouth, I'll be on the side. Catch you after a while.
10 for it. And I heard the whiners and complainers out there in the background, too. I could hear them. I ignored them, but I could hear them. All right there, Grandpa. Take care. 7 3s. I'm out. Bye.
Hey, Motormouth, I'm out there. I didn't hear the whiners and complainers. When you're on the line, you're all I hear. Motormouth Ball, your grandpa. You're my mentor, Motormouth Ball. Your grandpa, big out.
410.
Catch you later, Motormouth.
Click, click.
Clickety clack, clack, clack.
Go lay down.
Who said go lay down?